to see her son as Bernard pounds forward here. Learning football very late, went to a junior college and get Dallas, look out. Oh, the second time in 13 days. It looked exactly what happened in Salt Lake City.
All right, folks. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special sports talk with Chris Heidel here. We're back in the old office here today. Yes, you saw the score: Oregon losing to Utah by a score of 38-10. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Chris Heidel here. Normally, we do this on Tuesday. With Steve Zulich and George Bashura. But George last week was in LA, and I had to speak to George by telephone. Because of the situation going on in South Bend. Brian Kelly decided to, at 10 o'clock on Monday night, to say goodbye to the folks in South Bend for LSU. So I talked to George from LAX, and this is a two-parter because of we had to break it down for two parts here on StreamYard. So here is part one of my interview with George Bashura from Shakedown Thunder, our buddy and colleague who joins us every Tuesday. So here it is. Shakedown Thunder out there in beautiful LA. Let's talk about the breaking news that broke overnight or during Monday Night Football. Brian Kelly heading to LSU to take over the job for Ed Ogeron. So, George, what's your sense on that one?
It was a lot of shock as to the news that broke. They always say you'll remember where you are when something happens. And the news broke while I was over in Adventureland in Disneyland. So the phone started blowing up, and at that time it was all conjecture. But then later on that evening, we found out through a message that Coach Kelly had indeed sent a text message to the players that he was departing the University of Notre Dame.
Wow. Why did he meet with his players? Or he just basically got out of Dodge real quick? Because I think that's kind of like, no offense, pretty low.
Well, one, he stayed behind, I believe, from a team returning and was recruiting out on the recruiting trail while all this was going down. Mm-hmm. And, sending a text message is just not the way to do business. I can remember... what was his name? Randy Edsel had done something similar to that when he was with UConn. Mm-hmm. And you go to battle with these kids every Saturday. You get them to learn your system. You try to be honest with them and bring them up right. And then the next minute, he's gone. Yeah. There's got to be some sense of betrayal right now with that team.
Yeah, I feel like most of the team should be in an uproar because, and I found out one of the coaches was out on the recruiting trail. It was on Matt, one of the beat writers, I think. Yeah, put out a text message, and one of the one of his Brian Kelly's coaches was recruiting, and he gets the message right when he was walking out the door of the guy's house, and he's like, and he said, "Beeping this guy." Wow,
It's dirty pool whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
These parents trust you with your discussions that you're going to bring their kid up and through the system with the success. But I'll be honest with you, I think Jack Swarbrick said it correctly. It's the students, it's the student athletes that have made this program so much better with their commitment to winning and, doing better for the university. So in the end, yes, this is the student athletes as to where the program is today. But, you have to have the coaching and stuff. But ultimately, this is on the shoulders of the players now to carry this through.
Right. Well, here I got the text message here. I got off of the gentleman's Twitter page. He goes, Coach Kelly, at 10:08 p.m. on the 29th of November. Men, let me first apologize for the late text, but more importantly, not being able to share this news with you in person. I will be leaving Notre Dame. I'll be flying back to South Bend tonight to be able to meet with you in the morning, but the news broke later today, and I'm sorry that you found out through social media and news reports. I will have more to share with you and meet with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., but for now, I just know that my love for you is timeless, and I am so proud that all of you have accomplished. Our program is elite because of our hard work, your hard work and commitment. and I know that will continue. It's like basically telling the players, like, in a wrong state of mind, like, go in and have a nice day, in a nice way.
It's truly it's a selfish act.
Yeah.
It's a selfish act. Never should have happened this way. According to Schwarber this morning in his press conference, the signs there were what was going to happen actually came in a Freudian slip a couple weeks ago when Coach Kelly was asked about whether he was going to stay with the university or not.
Mm-hmm.
Was he leaving? He said, I would never leave unless the price was right and my wife agreed with it. And when you think back about certain words and a Freudian slip like that, everything makes sense. He had been in talks with USC about going out there for that coaching job, which was quite a surprise. But the bigger surprise was how the LSU bomb was dropped on us really quick.
Right. I just feel like he should have been a little more upfront with people. But coaches these days, like, you saw with Riley, who went out to USC, he held it basically to his chest, and somebody asked him the night before after the Oklahoma game, said, are you going to LSU? And he goes,
Yes, it's bigger than that. Yeah. What happens with the students is that they got to go through the transfer portal. Some students have to sit out. Some students don't. Where a coach can leave in the middle of his contract and go coach the next season.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So it's dirty pool, but you know what? He did good things for the program. But, people are on social media, some people are telling me this morning how the backlash towards Kelly has been kind of brutal. But I'm like, you know what? He set this up for himself.
Right.
Absolutely set this up for himself. And what happens is what he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's a rebuilding. They had a tough year rebuilding through the offensive line and learning a new system from the new defensive coordinator, which I'm not saying he's going to be the new head coach, but
right.
that's the big talk on social media. But it's going to be another now second building year, having to learn a new system. Yeah. Because, what happens sometimes, a coach takes his coordinators with him too.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And also I can see the writing on the wall, because the way he talks to the South Bend media members, and it seemed like the South Bend media members doesn't even, it seemed like they had a lot of friction with him ever since he got there. It's like, because if you listen to some of the press conference over the years, it was like he gets in arguments with people, like, some people from the Tribune and all that stuff. It's like, they're just trying to do your job, man. And he even got in an argument with me over the phone.
Well, there's those moments. I mean, sometimes the coach does that in frustration and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, Brian Kelly owns this.
Right.
And when you leave your team like this, the interesting part I would say though more is how the fan base, how many people said they did not like Brian Kelly as a coach. But these are the same ones now being frustrated with the fact that he's leaving the program. So.
Yeah. So what do you think should run the program? A lot of people right here, like Urban Meyer, he wants to he wants to roll out of Jacksonville.
Urban Meyer, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. What do you think?
Not a good pick.
What do you think?
I think it's going to be the defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
The comments were made months ago that that quote unquote that he was the next head coach of Notre Dame.
Oh, so basically Brian Kelly set this up way before LSU, and
I don't think this was set up. I think there was a long-term goal that Brian Kelly was staying, but was going to groom Marcus Freeman into being the head coach.
Yeah.
Not saying that he's going to be the head coach, but just going back to conversations that were had in press conferences.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I truly think he should have stayed, because he doesn't do well against Alabama. He hasn't beaten Alabama. He's 0-2. Got annihilated the last couple times in a bowl game. Now you got to face him every year. Then Georgia basically beat you guys twice, at home and away. And then you got to face Jimbo, in Texas A&M, and his record against Jimbo is like 1-5. I think he beat Jimbo once when Jimbo was at Florida State. But it's, to me, it's like, why you want to? It's just like Jimbo Fisher. Why do you want to go into a conference knowing that you're going to struggle in that first couple of years trying to get through Alabama, and you're in LSU? They're expecting championships.
Here's what's going to happen, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You have two. There's two different types of players. You have student athletes in Notre Dame that are held to a higher standard than the rest of the country. Okay.
Yeah.
You have SEC players that come in with a different level of scholastic ability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, I mean, they're still legitimate to play in the NCAA because they have to maintain some level. But in the SEC, you're getting a different type of player. So if Brian Kelly wins the national championship, it's not that he's a great coach. It's the fact that he's the coach that had great football players.
Wow.
That gets us, 4- and 5-star recruits that Notre Dame cannot get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the telling difference. And it's just crazy. You don't lie to your students. You don't lie to your student athletes.
No. And I feel like, to me, if LSU now from the future on, if Brian Kelly comes back as the LSU coach to South Bend, will he get a standing ovation, or will people be booing him?
Oh, I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Okay. Yeah, it's almost like a Met player leaving town without saying goodbye, and and it gets booed, and it's like, well, you deserve it. You did it on your own.
It's all for the love of money.
Yeah. Well,
it's as a discussion I had today, it's just generational cash.
Yeah. How much more money do you need? He has everything at Notre Dame. Okay, he hasn't won a national title. So what? But he's set for life at Notre Dame. He's basically almost like a legend. He just has to win one championship and then he's good to go. And then you have to abandon ship.
I think there was some pressure coming there as to there was going to be no contract renewal. And he had this, as much as people say we're going to win the national championship this year, maybe he saw the writing on the wall and says, you know what, time for me to cut bait.
Yeah. So who's gonna coach the bowl game?
That discussion has not been had yet. That came up in the press conference today.
Okay.
They're not naming an interim coach right away.
Okay.
Like I said, they're leaving the assistant coaches out on the recruiting trail. So I think it's a mistake not naming an interim coach. Give him a day or two to name an interim coach, but don't let it drag on for too much longer after that.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Well, buddy, I hope you have a safe trip back from California. I know you're a superstar now because of the. I don't know. I may have to up my pay raise to get you back on the program, but we'll see. We'll see you next Tuesday.
I want walk-up music from now on.
I think we need to use the Hulk Hogan walk-up music. The NWO.
I'll send you what I want.
Okay, send it to me. That'll be cool. Well, safe trip back to Chicago and a safe trip back to the school.
I was hoping that we'd be talking under different circumstances, but Chris.
All right, folks. That's my good friend George Bashura, who was out in beautiful California when that news broke last week. So he'll be back this Tuesday night, when we'll be getting ourselves ready for some bowl games. We got some good basketball going on this week here in the area. Pat Scary from Townsend will be joining us this week. They're going to be taking on Ohio State Wednesday night out in Columbus. So that's going to be a tough game for the Tigers. So we'll talk to Coach Pat about, that trip going out to Columbus. And plus we got other good, people as well. We got Tom Hess, a professional bowler who was trying to get on last week to talk about Mark Roth. We'll talk about his career and his, how he's doing since his idol passed away a week ago. So it is 11:14 here on a beautiful Saturday here in Baltimore, and let's bring in Conor and Neil, who is down on the beautiful state of North Carolina, getting ready for today's game against Pittsburgh and Wake Forest. So Conor, how are you doing? What did you do last night with the? Did you do anything with the festivities around there?
No, I live about an hour and 15 minutes north of Charlotte, so it's right on that edge of is it worth the 2.5 hour round trip, 3 hours, 3.5 if you're dealing with rush hour, or do you just go down on the game day? So
yeah,
I'm still at home, but I'll be making my way down there shortly.
That's cool. Talk about. I heard the tickets are not selling real fast. Like, this is not the Clemson, Florida State taking on somebody else. Why is it taking so? I thought there's going to be a lot of because this is a local game for Wake Forest. Technically, what, an hour or two away, but still technically it's a local game.
Yeah, I mean, Wake has a passionate fan base, but it is a small fan base. I mean, anybody that's realistic would admit to that. It's just not the numbers that you would see from a Clemson or from a Florida State or even from a Carolina or NC State. They'll have about 20 to 25,000 Wake fans there. I'm curious what the pit turnout will be. I don't have a good enough gauge on whether they'll have. Honestly, I don't know if they'll have more or less than Wake fans. But we'll see. I mean, it's not going to be a sold out venue like it will be for Clemson, but sometimes you got to deal with that.
Yeah, I think my honest opinion, I think this game should have been 4:00 this afternoon, and I think they should have switched the Cincinnati game to 8:00 because you get a better draw. With something that I know it's the ACC championship game, but you got you don't have Kurt Herbstreit, you don't have the people, the big broadcasters. You got what, RG3 doing the game. It's like that's like what, the third the C team, if you want to call it.
Yeah. I RG3's done one other Wake game this year, and I rewatch all the games on TV for a film review. And I mean, to put it nicely, I was not a fan. I understand where his appeal would be. Like, he says some interesting things and he tries to present it in an interesting way. It's just not my cup of tea for a game broadcast.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And then plus, I think he's still trying to get an NFL job.
Yeah.
I think he's just doing this to fill himself in until somebody calls him. And I thought with the Saints going down with famous Jameis, and I thought others, I thought they would have gave him a call, but I guess he burned a lot of bridges during his time.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of that. I just know
now
that
a book coming out. Now he has a book coming out about the Redskins. I
heard about that.
How are you going to get a job, dude, if you put a book out now? That's like, just stay on TV. Okay, you're good now. Yeah,
it kind of feels like the next step is a retirement announcement. Just kind of make official what's the decision that's been made for you by GMs for the last couple of years.
Right, exactly. Well, let's talk about the quarterback for you guys. Hartman, he's been like under the radar this year. He's not been like in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Pickett's the one going to get the. I think it should be him. He was doing really well. Hartman up to the I think that North Carolina game, that non-conference game they called it. He did really well up against North Carolina.
Yeah, he's had a sensational season. It's really been it's been growth. He has, he came in and started as a true freshman 3 years ago and started the first 9 games, and you could look at those and you could pinpoint some really good moments, but you could also pinpoint some bad moments. He played at 175 pounds, and so you could always see, like, when they played Boston College and Zach Allen, or when they played Notre Dame and Jerry Tillery, and their defensive front was really good. Clemson, and that was the year that Clemson had 3 first-round picks on their defensive line. When those guys hit Sam and he was 175 pounds, it changed him for the entire game. I mean, he just was not the same quarterback that he was when he was kept clean. So over the last couple years, really, he's put on a ton of weight, and he's up to about 205, 210, and he can take some hits. He can take some punishment. And that's also kind of a good way to describe his mental toughness. He had a horrendous stretch in the Duke's Mayo Bowl last year. He'd thrown 1 interception in the entire season, and he threw 4 in a span of about 15 throws. And it really took that game from a competitive game to a blowout, right? Like end of third quarter, early fourth quarter. And he's invested a lot of time in his mental health. He has kind of dedicated himself to making sure his well-being is where it needs to be every week. And so now he's able to bounce back from negative plays. We talked about the clearest example of it from this season was he threw a fourth quarter interception against Louisville that allowed Louisville to tie the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a terrible interception. Like, it was he let it go, and you look down the field at where he's throwing, and it's like, well, that's going to be picked off. And it was picked off. And Coach Clausen has told us a couple times this year now that Sam's reaction to that play was exactly what he needed to see. Sam's reaction was just like, yep, that's on me. It's a bad throw. I'm going to get back after it. And the next 2 drives, he took Wake down for a go-ahead touchdown. Louisville tied the game. And then he took Wake down for a go-ahead field goal that really melted a lot of time off the clock and kind of salted away the win. And, Clausen has been pretty realistic and upfront with us that he doesn't know if the Sam Hartman from 2018 or 2019, maybe even 2020, is able to put that interception behind him like that. But this is a 4th-year quarterback that's had a sensational season, and it's kind of put it all together.
Yeah. Well, I had a chance to talk to Coach Clausen on last Saturday, when you guys clinched the title over in Boston College. And I had asked a decent question because I've been following his career because I covered the CAA a lot. He was at Richmond. He was at Bowling Green. I think I saw him at the bowl game down in D.C., when he was Bowling Green against, I think it was like Air Force or Utah or some weird, San Diego State. It was years ago. But it was like, so I asked this question, and let me play the clip, and I'll get back to you in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Heidel from Herbison Radio. Congratulations on winning the Atlantic Division title. What does it mean for you? Because I know you worked very hard since you came there, since your days at Richmond and Bowling Green and all that stuff. What does it mean for you to get to this hurdle to get ready to go down to Charlotte?
I mean, I've been doing this a lot of years. I'm happy for our players and our staff and our team. You do this enough years, and every now and then you really have a special year and a special team that buys in and is unselfish. It is not me. It's a program. It's assistant coaches. It's strength staff. It's all the players. It's all the people who have supported us. And it's a collective effort. And I just happen to be fortunate enough to be the head coach of this collective effort.
Hey, I think that's a great answer, because, and I've been following him because he's been trying to get to the ACC title game. Ever since he got to Wake Forest, it's been like he got here and all of a sudden he falls down and he gets back up and he falls back down. It's like now he's like finally he beat, he lost to Clemson, but he knocked Clemson out of the Atlantic Division. So he's there today.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think Dave is realistic. This is a program that is built to this point. We're going to see the sustainability of it in the next year or two. I don't know if you expect Clemson to lose 2 ACC games and still be able to win the division if you're not one of the teams that beat them too many times. Like, this is, I'm not going to say it's a once-in-a-lifetime shot. I mean, Wake won the ACC 15 years ago when things kind of fell their way. Mm-hmm. We're going to see if it can be built to be a program that, you're not saying, well, everything has to fall in their favor for them to win the division or win the championship, as we'll see later tonight. It's going to be fascinating for me to see what happens in the rest of the ACC. We've still got this coaching carousel spins wilder and wilder every day. Is Clemson going to lose their AD? Is their AD going to hire Brent Venables at Miami? Are they going to get Mario Cristobal? Like, that's something we have to kind of keep on the back burner today, but pay attention to a lot tomorrow. NC State is kind of, they're the ones that beat Clemson in the division, and they couldn't get over the hump. So I'm sure they're thinking it's their turn next year. Whether Clemson is back to being a national power or not. So we'll see. It'll be interesting.
And also, I think everything's going to rev up, next week, right after the bowl. We get the bowl selection tomorrow. And I feel like, and then I see on Twitter this morning, Dabo going to Oklahoma. Do you really want him to go? I don't think, okay, he already accomplished a lot of the ACC. I understand that. When you accomplish and you get like 70 straight years of ACC championships, you may want to try something different, like Brian Kelly, but he didn't do it the right way. I feel like Brian Kelly should came out right away and say, look, I'm going to LSU. I'm sorry. Why? I don't understand why these coaches have to be so secretly quiet. like Jimbo Fisher, a couple of years ago, putting his Christmas tree out on the front yard, and and saying he's going to Texas A&M, and then you see him rolling in with cowboy boots on and a cowboy hat. I'm like, okay, it's understandable you want to get more money. I understand that, but these are kids and they look up to you, and if you just roll out of town without saying goodbye to them, they're not gonna like you.
Yeah, I mean, you coaches always try to look for the best opportunity. Sometimes that involves some backroom dealings, and if the backroom dealings fall through, you don't want to have that out in the open to come back to your fan base and say, well, yeah, I was flirting with this school, but I'm still really committed to winning championships here. Right. It's a crazy business, man. It's now we got to throw in if you're going to stay at your school, seemingly you get a 10-year 9-digit contract. So it's just wild.
I know, it's crazy. Well, real quick, let's talk about Pittsburgh. Kelly Pickett. He's been there for I feel like he's been there for 9 years. He's been there so long. It's like when I heard you the other day, it was there the last time they were down there. It was for the ACC title. I'm like, oh my God, he's been there that long. I moved on, dude. But I understand with red shirt stuff, but. Do you feel like this might help? If Kelly Pickett plays really well, this could be probably something good for the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, I would wager a guess that even a mediocre game for him, which a mediocre game for him is probably about 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I would think based on the weakness of the quarterback position in this draft, he's probably going to be a first-round pick, and if he's not a first-round, he's certainly a second-round pick, unless he just puts up a terrible pro day or something like that. He's a shining example of, he could have left after last year, and he could have been drafted. I think he had enough heat that he would have been maybe a 5th or 6th round pick. Maybe could have played his way into the 4th, but now he's going to be looked at as a guy that even as the hometown Steelers could take him. And try to get, if he's the starter, if he's the replacement for Big Ben, who knows? Right. I always get a kick out of it's kind of tied into what you're asking about. I always get a kick out of the NFL. Everybody goes into the season thinking they've got a franchise quarterback, and by week 7, it's about half the teams in the league have their quarterback that they're set with, and the other half are like, all right, let's get going to April so we can draft another franchise quarterback. Let's throw our hat in the quarterback roulette,
right?
Or try to trade for somebody's backup that they're fed up with. So, I think he's right in that next batch of guys that are going to be drafted and looked at as you could be our franchise quarterback.
That's true. Well, Conor, I hope you have a safe trip down to Charlotte today. Hopefully the weather is going to be nice. You guys are having nice weather. I heard it's in the 80s down there today. I'm kind of a little jealous.
I think it's 70s. Yeah, it's I'm not complaining. And I'm sure we'll get our swing of 30s and 40s, and it'll probably snow at some point later this month. But that's Carolina weather for you.
Yeah, I'm used to going down there this time every year, but this year I decided to stay home because I had to work and do other stuff. And I'm thinking to myself today, oh, it's supposed to be 73 degrees. Why did my buddy sell his house in Charlotte? Who's listening. So anyway, buddy, I hope you have a safe trip. Thanks for coming on. Don't worry about last Tuesday. I know about technology and and all good stuff.
I thought the Wi-Fi would be better in the Joel Coliseum there. That's my fault.
See, that's the other thing is you got to call them and say, look, you get the football program fixed, now get the Wi-Fi fixed, and then you're good to go. All right, buddy. I hope you and your family have a great holiday season, and we'll talk to you when ACC basketball kicks off. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
All right, buddy. See you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. That's Conor O'Neill, who covers the Wake Forest football team. So yesterday afternoon in my travels, I had a chance to talk to Coach Pat Durduzzi, my phone. So here is sorry for the gallery of people. So here it is. Hey, Coach Ferduzzi, congratulations on winning the championship in the Coastal Division.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Talk about you guys been there before a couple of years ago with the rain and all that stuff down there. Do you feel like you know a little more? What did you learn from that game that helped you this week prepared for this week's game?
I went back and looked at some of my notes and what we did, and I won't share any secrets. But to me, you can talk to your kids about it, and but they have their own feelings about it. Okay, I think back when we clinched it, we actually beat Wake Forest, at Wake Forest to clinch it, and didn't finish up the season the way we wanted it to. But when we did clinch, I think our kids were excited to be there, and it's just been, and I told them, hey, listen, we don't want to be there. We don't want to be that team that's just excited to be in Charlotte. We want to be excited after the game. And, I've experienced that. We went to Michigan State when I was a defense coordinator. Then we played Wisconsin with Russell Wilson. Some of the locals have heard this. And when we got beat by them, last second of the game, actually roughed the punter. And, Keyshawn Martin took it all the way back that we were going to win the game, but we lost it. But the next time we went back, we beat Urban Meyer, the number one team in the country. So just kind of, going, I think, is a big advantage in knowing what you're in for. Someone can talk to you about it, but until you've done that, been there, I think that's an advantage.
If I can follow up real quick, talk about our good friend from Frederick, Maryland, your Jordan Edelson, your good wide receiver. Just talk about his development, because it seems like when I talked to him in the summertime, he was very shy. He seems like he's more outgoing now.
He's still shy, Chris. He's still shy, but he's developed. His mother talks about it all the time, how, she talks a lot to him. But he's quiet. He's humble. That's what I love about him. He just plays football. And he's not a guy like, hey, coach, I'm not getting enough catches. I mean, he doesn't care about that. He wants to win. He wants to play receiver. And maybe another thing, you talk about Blitnikoff that hasn't got out there enough, is the guy blocks. He's not one of these prima donna wideouts out there that doesn't block anybody. There was a play, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where he took and knocked two guys down on a block. It was like, wow, and this guy's not thinking he's too good. So he's a complete player. He's developed, in his 2 years at Pitt.
All right, folks. That's I had to talk to Pat Berduzzi there yesterday. So let's bring in Dan Tortora from Wake Up DT. Hey, Dan.
What's up?
That was the ACC Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, what's going on? How you doing?
I got that yesterday on the video. Like, what is this, Hollywood Squares? I'm like, you got Kevin Best at the top. You got me in the corner. It's like pretty funny stuff. So you're down there in beautiful Cincinnati. How beautiful is it right now?
Man, it is great. I've covered Cincinnati since, they from the Big East into the American Athletic Conference, and I've never been to Nippert Stadium. So to cover this team, but to do it, from afar and in travels and whatnot, and then to come in like I did, and the way that I got in to the city, I got to come by all the stadiums, got to see the Reds, got to see the Bengals. Just a beautiful, there's a feel you get when you go to certain places, and Cincinnati definitely made me, get that feeling. So I'm excited about today, and the weather's perfect. It's a little cool outside. You put on a sweatshirt, maybe some pants, shorts for some people, but the sun is shining, and it's a perfect day for a championship game.
Yeah. And also that stadium has a lot of history, because that was the home of the Bengals before they went to Riverfront Stadium. So that's a little history there.
Yeah. Nippert's supposed to be great. I was talking with Commissioner Mike Oresco in my show this week, and he told me I'm going to love it. And, he said it's cozy, 40,000 plus seats. So I'm excited. The last time I saw Cincinnati in the American Athletic Championship was a couple of years ago. Obviously, no media last year for 2020, and when they played Tulsa and beat Tulsa. But the year before, they were at the Liberty Bowl against Memphis, and I got to see them there and experience Liberty Bowl for the first time, and some really awesome Memphis barbecue. So I got to see what Cincinnati's got to offer food-wise. I'm very hungry. I took a very early flight today. So.
Hey, before you go to the stadium, it's at 4:00. Swing by. I heard about the chili's great there. But you don't want to be you don't want to make what the guy from the Mets make fun of the chili. Like he did. He said something about how bad he didn't like it on spaghetti or something like that, and the Twitter page just blew up. I'm like, really, dude, don't say that to people about Cincinnati. That's not cool. But anyway,
I've liked Cincinnati from afar, so it's good to finally be here.
Nice. Well, let's talk about this game. Cincinnati basically right now number 4 in the college football playoff. If they win or they blow out Houston, they got their tickets punched pretty much. They're basically. I feel like they're in.
They should be in. They should have been in last year. And so when I did my predictor last year, I had Texas A&M and Cincinnati in. They did not, of course, make it. They allowed that to Ohio State and changed a lot of rules to make sure Ohio State could get in. Changed the rules of how many games they had to play so they could get in the Big Ten championship, and then made sure the game was at a time where everybody would be back healthy from any COVID screening and testing and whatnot. So we know the Big Ten gets an unfair advantage. That's life. And and then Notre Dame last year just did absolutely nothing and continue to do absolutely nothing in the college football playoff. But and that doesn't mean I don't like Notre Dame. It doesn't mean I don't respect them. I just think you should earn your spot. And Cincinnati earned their keep last year. And at the end of the season, which was the first day of this year, I was down in Atlanta, Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome and had the opportunity to see Cincinnati take on Georgia. And they commanded that game for about 75% of the time, 80% of the time. Last couple drives is really what it came down to. People don't look at the fact Georgia won by a field goal barely and what Cincinnati did in that game. If Cincinnati is to get the opportunity, which they should if they win this game, get into the college football playoff, it would be great to see them have another shot at Georgia.
I think that would be a great matchup, because Georgia beat them by a last-minute field goal in the Peach Bowl, and I had Gary Stoken on a week ago, and he was like, "Yeah, that was a great game, and we're proud of they're undefeated right now, along with Georgia." I'm like, "Well, I wish you had the game now."
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to see what Cincinnati has to do. Cincinnati's blown out every single team that they've played, winning by double digits, including winning by double digits on the road. Not a blowout, but a double-digit victory at South Bend against Notre Dame when they were ranked number 9 in the nation. And on top of all of that, their closest games were 7 points and 8 points. And they've done everything that they've had to do. I mean, if this was Alabama's schedule and they were blowing out unranked teams and then beating Notre Dame, if this was Michigan's schedule, doing the same thing, if it was Michigan State, if it was Ohio State, if it was Georgia, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We're having this conversation because the American Athletic doesn't get the respect that they deserve. We're having this conversation because Cincinnati is doing what UCF did a few years back, which is, just go undefeated, then go undefeated again, except for Cincinnati has a win over Notre Dame. So if this was any other team in the quote unquote Power 5, we would not be discussing anything. We'd be saying that they're in even if they lost this game or if they played it close and lost. They got to beat Houston convincingly, stay undefeated, be 13-0, and have the win over Notre Dame. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. These are two good teams in Cincinnati and Houston. Cincinnati coming to their third straight AAC championship game and trying to win their second in a row. Houston coming to their second ever, and the first one that they were ever in was the inaugural 2015, which I was down at TDECU Stadium in Houston, Texas, when Houston got to take on Temple at the time, and Houston won that game. And that brings me back to some really cool times there with Greg Ward and company. So, I'm excited to see Houston back. I'm excited for Dana Holgorsen. I'm also want to make note that Dana Holgorsen, I believe, is 0-3 or 0-4 at West Virginia against Syracuse in their last few games. And so that's interesting. But Luke Fickell is Luke Fickell. So one team's coming back, another team's, here for a third time in a row. So, I'm excited. And these two teams deserve to be ranked in the college football playoff rankings. Cincinnati deserves to be in. And the fact that they're barely in at 4 to me is asinine.
Yeah. I saw an interview of Dana Holgorsen, and I used to do a lot of West Virginia stuff. He looks like he loves Texas.
It was his return back.
I looked at him like, man, did you go old, man? Because when he was in West Virginia, he didn't look like, he looks like what's his name? The guy from the Texas Rangers. He doesn't look like what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Whoever I'm talking about. But anyway, Chuck Norris. He doesn't even look like Chuck Norris.
Oh, okay,
okay. I'm looking at going, did he forget to comb his hair?
No, that's Dana. That's Dana. Disheveled and ready to go. That's him. I love it.
Exactly.
He looks like he was just scratching his head over a play, but Dana's a strong coach. Luke Fickell's a strong coach, and I mean these two guys deserve national exposure. It's fantastic that they're going to get it. I think Mike Resco said this is the 6th or 7th time that they've been nationally televised for the championship game on ESPN or on ABC. So, I'm very, very excited for the world to watch this matchup. I mean, if the world was watching the Pac-12 game last night, that was boring. So, I mean,
I didn't watch
once
it.
again.
I was watching something else. I was watching the Food Network. I forgot that game was on. I was like, oh, oh well.
I think people should have been watching Hawkeye episode 3 on Disney Plus,
or the Beatles Get Back. Play that over again. Let's talk about Ryder, the quarterback. It seems like they have never had a great quarterback in Cincinnati. It seems like to me, because my brother and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. My older brother, he was like, when they were playing against, I think it was Navy or something like that, and they had a hard time against Navy. And my brother goes, "Who's their famous quarterback at University of Cincinnati?" I'm like, "You're looking at me? You're asking me? I don't know." I was like, "The only Cincinnati Bengal I know is Boomer Esiason. This is the Bearcats, dude." So he's the best quarterback in Cincinnati history.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder. It's funny when you look at Desmond Ridder and Clayton Tune, their stats are almost exactly the same this season, which is crazy. Ridder's got 3,000 passing yards. Clayton Tune has 3,013. Ridder's got 27 passing touchdowns. Clayton Tune's got 26. They both have 8 interceptions, and Ridder's 66% completion percentage. Clayton Tune is 68.7 for Houston. So almost the exact same quarterback as far as statistically going to face off against each other today, which is great. And Clayton's come through and he's risen and, had to earn his spot and didn't necessarily have it all the time. And Desmond Ridder, he decided to come back, and him and I talked about that going into the season, just the why. And, he's not done yet. He wants to leave with respect. And I think that what he's done this season, what this team has done this season, is do exactly what they intended to do last year when they were spurned from the college football playoff, which is show you why they should be there. And they hit the ground running like literally January 2nd after that loss to Georgia in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. They were back to work, and this team has shown that they deserve to be here. Desmond Ridder, this entire squad deserves to be exactly where they are right now. And Luke Fickell stayed committed. His name's come up a billion times to a billion different places, and he has not moved. He has not wavered. His family likes it there. He likes it there, and he has built something really great. And the only sad part of today is the bittersweet reality that if the American Athletic finally gets the respect it deserves, it's with 2 teams fighting for a conference championship that are going to be leaving. And Cincinnati, if they finally get what UCF was not given, it's going to be for American athletic history, but a future Big 12 team. So that's a tough thing for me to stomach. But at the same time, I couldn't be happier for these 2 programs. They deserve the world, and covering them for as long as I have, I respect the heck out of them.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other game at 8:00, the game that should be at 4:00. And this game you were in Cincinnati should be at 8:00. That's what I'm thinking. It should have been a little more prime time instead of 4:00 in the afternoon. Pitt and Wake Forest. We saw Pitt and Wake during the ACC kickoff, and nobody really went to talk to Wake Forest. I didn't see anybody go in there into the breakout rooms. They didn't have a lot of people there talking to Coach Clausen. And I guess I think next year you and I maybe want to go in there and listen to Coach Clausen a little bit better than listening to him in the big media area.
Yeah, it amazes me how we have the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the response of the media in their coverage of Wake Forest is so dismal. They cover, when it comes to the Carolinas, they cover Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, Duke, but the disrespect that Wake Forest has received since for me covering the ACC, I've been kind of appalled by the lack of respect that Wake Forest gets. Dave Clawson deserves it. I've been a fan of his since he got hired. I love what he's built. I've defended him when he was in his first few seasons. And what I defended is what you're seeing right now. They have toyed with and pushed to be one of the top teams in the Atlantic Division. They've been number 2. They've been number 1. They've been number 3 at some point in the last few seasons. And this season, with Clemson obviously having a maturation process not going as quickly as they want it to, we see, Wake Forest able to win this division. But I don't want to take anything away from them and say, oh, it's just because Clemson. No, they were a strong team, and they have definitely pushed to be here the last couple of years under Dave Clawson, and now they finally have done it. The only issue is they're meeting Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I think tonight's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be one of those, or it could be one of those classic 3-0 games. Like we saw at the beginning of the year with the Clemson and Georgia game. It was like 10-3 or 10-7 or something like that. Final score. It was like a defensive struggle. So you don't know what type of game you're going to see tonight.
I would anticipate that this game is going to be in the 30s. Could one team get to the 40s, be 40-33 or something like that? I can see that, but I anticipate this being a scoring game. I anticipate the fact that Wake is going to give them everything. Wake didn't do anything extremely well against Syracuse when they came to the Dome, and they were able to beat Syracuse in overtime because Dino just can't finish against Dave Clawson.
Right.
Clawson's had his number in the second half of games numerous times. And so, but I did see that Wake had some holes. Pitt was a different feel in the Dome. I feel like Pat Narduzzi, and I can't say that he did this, I'm not in his brain, but from what I could gather of 18 years of broadcasting and my whole life of covering sports, is Pat Narduzzi looked like in the first half against Syracuse, he was kind of just like, you know what, let's take it easy. Let's do what we need to do. And then in the second half, let's just kill him. It was kind of like, let's box with him. Let's kind of move around, try to get him tired, and then we'll knock him out in the second half. I don't think he wanted to show much against Syracuse because he didn't have to. He knew he was going to beat Syracuse. And so I think he tried to hold on to some stuff for the championship game, and that's why the score maybe wasn't as high when they played Syracuse.
Yeah, it was like the old rope-a-dope that Muhammad Ali used to do. A little rope-a-dope, punch him there and then, let him punch you. And it's almost like Rocky IV, let him punch and then bring it, have, coming out, beating the hell out of him, beating the Russian. Well, buddy, I got to let you go because I got to talk to Chris Nockey because Maryland, fired Mark Turgeon yesterday. So that's another big story around here. So let me get him on the hotline. But you have a fun time today in Cincinnati. Don't eat too much, and enjoy the weather. And we'll talk to you before the holidays. If not, have a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. And just so everybody knows, you didn't ask me, but I'll tell you, I'm picking Cincinnati over Houston, and I'm picking Pittsburgh over Wake Forest.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Okay.
And I want to give you a credit. I want to say thank you for making me a believer of Mike Norville, because right after we had that conversation from Epcot, I was like, all right, let's give him some time. He'll be all right. And I appreciate that.
Mike Norvell is going to put y'all in a. Hey, listen, he did what he did with Memphis. He's a good coach. He's a hell of a recruit. He knows how to find talent. I mean, he just does. So I think Florida State's going to be okay if they could stay patient, which I know is a difficult thing for fans in Tallahassee today.
Oh, I'm patient now because I totally told my brother last Saturday, he goes, well, you guys have a good team. I was like, where are you guys playing for the bowl game? Was it the Tallahassee Invitational? Home. Yeah. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Be safe, bud.
I will. Take care. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. See you.
See you.
All right, that's our good friend Dan Tortora from Wake Up Call DT. I'm going to take a break here for a minute. I've got to get Chris Nockey on the phone. So in the meantime, let's play some some Pearl Jam.
Don't it make me smile?
All right, folks. Welcome back to the program. We have our good friend Chris Naki from the Maryland Basketball Radio Network. Tough day for Maryland fans. If you were there on Wednesday night against Virginia Tech, I was there for the first half through the middle of the second half, and it was a competitive game, Chris. Until I guess on the way home, everything fell apart, and then everybody started booing. So I guess when you start getting people to boo you, I guess somebody might be leaving. So that's what happened, right?
Well, I mean, now I know who's to blame for the Virginia Tech loss. You left at halftime, man.
Yeah, I should be it's my fault.
Yeah, so we're putting this L in your on your all-time record.
That works.
They were up 7 in that game, and probably should have been up 17 at that point in the second half. And but they weren't. And Tech hung around in there. And you see enough sports, that if you let teams hang around, it comes back to bite you a little bit, and it certainly did. I don't know. I don't know how that might have changed things. The next 48 hours. Had they won, I would assume that Church stayed on. I think he was, I think he was just, his glass is generally speaking is half empty, and he looks at things that way. He's got sort of a doomsday approach to things, and I just think he'd had enough. And I know that he also took his family into consideration with this, and I think he was frustrated with his team. I think that there were probably 8 or 9 different things that all added up to him just saying, there needs to be a new voice and a new direction for all parties involved here. And I wasn't a part of the conversation, just sort of reading the tea leaves here. I think that's a part of what played out.
Yeah, I feel like it was getting frustrated because they were down in the Bahamas. They beat Richmond pretty well, and then in Louisville last Saturday was I'm sorry, nobody plays basketball at 10 o'clock in the morning on a vacation. I'm sorry, who does that? I don't get up. When I'm in Disney World, I don't get up and go, "Hey, Mom, let's go to where I go to the sports venue over there and start partying at the over there." You got to get yourself up and you got to get your breakfast. You got to make yourself ready to go. But 10 o'clock in the morning, the kids had to get up at 7 o'clock for stretching, right?
I would say it was before that. I mean, generally, you try to have your pregame meal 3.5 hours to 3.5 to 4 hours prior to the game, and so I would think they were up before. I think they were probably up around 6, probably ate about 6:30, 6:45. And you're right, man. I'll bet you money that each one of those guys went back to bed for another hour. They played sluggishly, I thought, So, but both teams had to deal with a 10 a.m. So,
yeah,
you just go with it.
Yeah, I know. I just feel like to me, it was just. I'm playing the WJZ statement from yesterday from Mark Turgeon. He always preached Maryland basketball is bigger than any individual, and I feel like, he has it in good hands with Danny Manning. Danny Manning is a good coach. He just got, I feel like, in my opinion, he got screwed in Wake Forest.
Well, it's a tough job. I mean, you think about that. You labor in a region where you also have Duke, Carolina, NC State,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the toughest leagues in the conferences in the country. So you've got a lot of challenges down there in Winston-Salem. You've also got really difficult academic requirements there. So you have to be really good to win down there. And it just didn't happen for him. But he was really successful at Tulsa prior to Wake Forest, and he's got kind of a clean slate here. I'll be interested to see what, if anything, he changes, because they do have a lot of practice time scheduled for the next 3 weeks. The games are sort of after Florida next weekend. Chris, the games are sort of few and far between for about a 3-week period. So he's got the chance to go back to the dry erase board and maybe change things a little bit.
Yeah. What about tomorrow afternoon's game at 12 noon against Northwestern? Do you feel like the kids are going to get up and say, all right, we just got our coach, parted ways. Let's make this one stay around longer?
Well, I think that, I fully expect, and I'm hoping this is the case, they loved Turge. Players to a man really liked him. They respected him. I have a feeling that they're going to play like they're shot out of a cannon. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that they're going to start making 3-pointers until they start to play better. they're gonna struggle. So yeah, I think they're gonna play hard as hell and really want to win that game for Church. Again, just hope the quality of play is better, and then they'll win if in fact it's better.
Yeah, and hopefully the fans will give Danny Manning, the love. I know he's not a Maryland guy. He didn't play against, he played against Maryland a lot. He was with Kansas and all that stuff. But I hope they could give him the love and respect, saying, "All right, he's here to help us."
Well, I think that remains to be seen, Chris. I think that Maryland fans, there are a lot of them that are, would root for anybody in that seat that's not Mark Turgeon. That's kind of where they're at right now, unfortunately. And but winning is one of those things that solves a lot of problems and it cures a lot of ills. And so if he, gets the team to respond, if you win that game tomorrow, you're basically tied for first place in the conference for about a month because the rest of the Big Ten schedule doesn't start until early January. So that would be a really nice start to the Manning tenure in College Park.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk to Johnny Halliday yesterday? Did you talk to your guys and what?
I did. Yeah, I did. I talked to Johnny for a little while yesterday, and we were both surprised by the timing. This rarely happens in the first week of December. Obviously, Church had reached the point, at least in his mind, where he just had to make the decision and take the plunge. And so, yeah, we were both surprised about it. I don't think anybody would have been surprised had he, made it to the end of the season and then decided to leave in March or April. I don't think anybody would have been surprised by that, but
right.
That's not what happened here. And so, you move on. You try and there's still a lot of season left. In fact, there's 20 Big Ten games left. So you still have an opportunity. Every goal that you had before the season is still within your reach.
Right, exactly. So who's now on the who's on the list right now? I'm saying, because you hear college football, you got this guy who's on the list, Brian Kelly went to LSU and didn't tell anybody. And, who's on the list for Maryland looking at going, okay, we're not going to hire anybody until April, but who is the one who looks like we could bring in here to make College Park still a top 5 program?
Well, I think it's a top 15 job. I think that in terms of who you bring in, I think that's going to be directly related to how attractive you make the job and how much money, what kind of resources are you going to devote to it. And that's not just salary. These guys all make a healthy living as it is, but they need to get that new practice facility built. And they were supposed to break ground this upcoming spring. Programmatically, there need to be some improvements. The offices need to be improved, and maybe the offices will be moved into the new practice facility. But there are a lot of upgrades that need to happen, and more money that needs to be put into the program. And then I think that increases your pool of people that you can attract, because the recruiting footprint alone is one of those things that's incredibly attractive for a lot of coaches. And, you add that to the resources, and you've got, like I said, you've got a top 10, top 12 job.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Juan Dixon, he's doing a good job at Coppin State, getting them. I know they're 1-8 right now and 1-9, but that could be a good fit because he's a former Maryland Terp, won a championship with Gary Williams, knows, what it needs to take to win in College Park. He might give an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they probably would be looking for a little larger resume than Juan's, but again, that's way above my pay grade. Chris. You're giving me way too much.
Hey, what about you? What about you playing, being the coach? Yeah.
I'm too old. But at any rate, I think right now it's a blank slate. They'll bring in the usual consultants, the folks that do these kinds of searches, and it'll be a pretty extensive search for sure.
That's cool. Well, I hope to see you tomorrow. I hope to be down there for the Northwestern game, and I'm staying for the whole thing, so I don't have to, get home anytime soon. So, because I think the Ravens play at 4:25, so that's no big deal.
Okay, well, I hear you guaranteeing a W because you're going to be there all game long.
Yeah, so that's the plan. Yeah, I guarantee. Yeah, if I don't get a W, you could take me outside and take me through the bad part of College Park and run me over. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you
All
go.
right, Chris.
All right. Thank you so much for this morning.
All right, you bet.
All right. See you. Bye. All right. That's Coach. That's Chris Nockey from the Maryland Basketball Radio Network. Here on the program. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us on a early championship Saturday. I'm Chris Heidel here in the booth here in the old, our production studio here. We'll see you guys Tuesday night. We'll be live Tuesday night here on the program. It's starting at 7:30. We'll have Pat Scarry joining us from Towson. Then we'll have Scott Wyckoff from WBAL to preview the Army-Navy game. That's up in MetLife Stadium this week coming up. And plus, we'll talk about bowl games and everything else. And we might talk to George about his trip to Hollywood, because he is now George Hollywood Bashura. So, folks, thanks for joining us here on the program. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the games on ESPN, the championship Saturday, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Until in the meantime, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. So, in the meantime, I don't have any Christmas music. We'll just say goodbye. Bye.